Hello, everyone. Welcome back for episode 46 of the Ready Set Shag podcast. I am back. We're back. Sorry for the delay. We were supposed to be live yesterday on the 8th, but I had a delay. My wife is very happy about that, by the way. I'm sure you guys aren't too happy about it, but either way, we're here and we're back with the conversations. If you're not familiar with this show, I like to sit down with people that I find interesting, people I find controversial at times, people I look up to, just to get some further perspective on the world, to further my knowledge, just to have a good time, not take the world too seriously, but sometimes take it seriously. My guest today is no exception to the rule of people that I admire and want to get to know and just respect all around. We have Kenzo here with us today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, Shags, and it's good to finally have a one-on-one with you, man. Like, I
Yeah.
know we've streamed together before, but I think this is our first actual one-on-one sit down together.
Yeah. You've been a part of streams and we've spoken through like chat. We've done a whole bunch of stuff, but this just, I think, does that, none of that stuff ever does it justice, right? Like the one-on-ones are definitely a more intimate setting. You don't have to talk over each other. You don't have to talk over other people. So, no, I'm glad we were finally able to make it work. I was kind of, I was disappointed because it had taken so long to finally get everything scheduled. And then it was just kind of a rough night. And I was like, I need to make the call to delay this. And then I reached out. Thankfully you were like awake and you got back to me right away and it was really cool. So again, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm not normally awake at this time on to be honest with you. Like you're on mountain time, so
Yep.
that's it's a late one for me, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm happy to be here, like I said. Definitely.
Well, much appreciated, man. Well, let's start off. Let's give a little background on just you, like, and the kind of stuff that you do. I mean, I know you from formerly from the Legion of Memers, and that's how we kind of came across each other, and just seeing your art and you doing memes and stuff. But I guess like give a little background on yourself and where you come from.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's coming up to nearly 2 years since I started actually streaming myself, and since I sort of discovered your guys' shows, especially your one, the Midweek Hump. It was a show that I discovered being a period in my life when I weren't doing too well, to be quite honest, physically. I'd recently had an accident at work. I worked in construction, doing roofing for a lot. Like, that's all I know. I did that since I left school, and I had an accident which left me unable to work, basically. And I was in a position where I was feeling quite like lonely and fed up, not really knowing what to do with myself, because I'd gone from being out working every day, doing something productive, working with a good community of people that I'd built up connections with over the last 20 years. And, we'd like call each other every day. And I quickly fell out of that loop where I wasn't working. So, for a long period of time, and I had to have surgery on my back and stuff. So while I was literally off my feet, I didn't really have the same people around me just to speak to, and I was feeling a bit like I said, lonely. I still have my wife there to support me, which is amazing, and she has been absolutely brilliant. But I was just missing that male camaraderie, and you know what I'm talking about, Shags.
Oh yeah.
You have to you have a certain level of expected behavior when you're hanging around your wife that you don't necessarily have when you're with your workmates, and you can
Yep.
like, so yeah, I was missing that. And while I was still working, I was into shows like FNT, like the fellowship shows.
Yep.
Because like a lot of people, I was disenfranchised with pop culture, comics, and like media in general, because like a lot of us, I hold traditional family values, and I don't feel like that they were necessarily being portrayed in the best light, or these companies weren't exactly pushing stuff that I wanted my kids to be seeing, or I wanted to be seeing, for that matter. So that's kind of how I found the fellowship, like a lot of people, like
Yeah.
I said. So yeah, I found your guys' show because I was at a point in my life where I weren't necessarily sleeping too well because I was still in a lot of pain. I still am now, to be honest. I'm a chronic pain sufferer. But at the time, I was still in recovery from the operation, and I wasn't sleeping very well at all. So you guys at the midweek hump were very welcoming. You were a very interactive community, and like I said, you welcomed me in, and before long, I was doing artwork for you. I did a little bit of fan art and stuff, and you liked it that much that you used it in your thumbnails.
Yep.
And so yeah, and kind of I think that was our first introduction, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, the Legion of Memers and No Green Rocks were the first people that I ever streamed with or decided to stream with, and No Green Rocks found me just memeing on FNT. He found me on Twitter and reached out to me and asked me basically, if I would like to consider being part of the Legion. And I joined on a trial basis. And from there, I met a good bunch of lads that were all in a similar position to me in terms of, not getting on with the TV shows like they used to.
Yep.
And that was, like I said, the first stream I'd ever been on. I hadn't ever been on streams before, but it was quite for me it was having a community again, like that aspect of it that I really enjoyed, because as I said, I was feeling a bit like lonely at home, stuck
Yeah.
with all of these thoughts and machinations going around in my head and no one to share them with. So
Do
so
you,
yeah.
I was going to say, quick question. Are you and your wife, are you guys pretty like on the same page with stuff? Do you feel like you guys can talk about a lot of this stuff? I mean, even
Oh,
though
for
it's
sure.
different, can you guys still talk about cultural stuff
Yeah,
and
for
things
sure,
like that?
for sure.
That's cool.
Well, we're different people in a lot of ways, but we have the same core traditional values that have been instilled to us. I would say I always considered myself growing up to be sort of, I don't know, because being in like from a musical and art sort of background, we were always considered quite, I don't know, liberal, I guess, but I also always had conservative values, especially when it come to bringing up children. Because I was always around young children. I had like my sisters were like 10 years older than me, so even from growing up young, I was always around their children, and then I
Yeah.
had children of my own not long after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always found it important to have, like I said, to have quite conservative values, I guess, when it does come to what my children see and on TV and the kind of people that they're around.
For sure. Yeah, it seems to be getting harder and harder to find like the right thing. And I always wonder if it's because now that I'm a parent and like if it has this stuff always been, I always wonder, has this stuff always been there? And because now I'm a parent and I'm so fixated on making sure I raise my kids the proper way that I'm looking at the past with these rose colored glasses, or you know what I mean? Or is it really getting out of hand? And getting into this commentary space and even sitting and talking with people has really swayed me back and forth quite a bit. There's times where I feel, oh my God, this is way out of hand. And then there's other times where I'm like, oh man, we got to settle down. Like we're getting ahead of ourselves. It's tough. But I think that's much like raising kids and being an adult, is you're constantly trying to go back and forth and weigh the good with the bad. It's a very strange thing.
I mean, you got to look. There has always been, even if you go back to like the 50s or whatever, back then, riding on a motorcycle and wearing a leather jacket with your hair slicked back was like one of the worst things possibly that you could do. Like your
Right.
parents would for that. So there has always been some sort of area of teen rebellion, I guess. And I think in some senses, this whole what's the identity politics kind of movement and stuff, a lot of the young people especially seem to be sort of, well, for a long time we're leaning into it very heavily. You know, it was all in the schools, it's all in the colleges. You know, it seems to be the in thing at the moment, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Rather than like in the 80s, it was, you know, wear a safety pin through your nose and a mohawk haircut and listen to punk. Now it's cut parts of your body parts off, and you know, that seems to be the way of rebelling at the moment.
They're taking the term body modification a little too seriously now, it seems.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a wild place to be. And now for you guys, you know, not to get too heady too quick, but you know, prior to the show, we were talking a little bit about what you guys are going through over in the UK right now, and in how you really can't. It's very difficult to discuss things that are controversial, essentially, on the internet because they're essentially rounding people up and arresting them.
I mean, that was already happening to a certain extent, I guess. We had quite a few instances lately where people were getting a knock on the door from police just for, you know, stuff that they'd said online, whether it be anti-trans stuff or just offensive stuff in general. You know, there was a new thing that they brought out called a non-crime hate speech charge, so they could get you on that. So even though you hadn't actually committed a crime, that you would be recorded down for a hate speech, basically. And that's the kind of thing that will stop you from getting a job, you know, because even though you haven't committed a criminal act, it'll still be on your permanent record when you go to look for a job.
Like if they ran a background check for you, that would pop up.
That kind of thing where they run the background checks. That it'll come up, yeah, and you're not going to get the job, especially if you're going up against someone that doesn't have a or if it's a job where you're dealing with people or whatever, they'll class you as a racist or.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But at the moment, like with the new government coming in and what's happened over the past couple of weeks, if anything, it seems like they just want to silence dissident voices. It's a scary time we have where the media, who its job is supposed to be to call out the government for their shortfalls, seem to be the ones that are just parroting the government's narrative, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess you guys have that already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is we don't, as of yet, have to worry about, you know, the Gestapo knocking on our doors and finding us or arresting us. But, you know, it's still, you know, I think in the US, we're still heavily policed by, there's like a social police happening, you know.
Well, our police commissioner for the Met this week, yesterday, turned around and said that even people in your country, that if you guys are putting hate speech online, or, you know, that could lead to riots in the UK, then, you know, he's coming for you guys too. I don't really see how that'll work.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have free speech, and if it's for an extradition to work, the crime has to be a crime in both countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really don't see how that one's, but that's not going to happen. So you guys don't have to worry. But I think that's why I don't know if you've seen this week, even Elon Musk seems to be trolling our prime minister.
I didn't see him do that, but I think the world just needs more of that, you know, like some light trolling is good, especially these political fools. And you know, there's just so much nonsense. I mean, especially with our political system, it's so It's so corrupt, and it's such a clown show. Like, when they televise these hearings on CNN, MSNBC, and all that, it's all a show. These people sit, and it's, the whole, you've seen them. It's the panel of, senators, representatives talking to a CEO. Why did you do this? Explain to me why your record shows this. And then they give 4 hours of non-answer, where it's just them. It's like one senator or whatever just yelling at the other one, just answer the question, just answer the question. And the other person sits there and smiles, but I think the world needs more people like Elon Musk who are willing to take the piss out of these government officials, like, when they can, like, and I think people just need to lighten up in general, because we've just seen over the past couple of years, this whole thing evolved from, and I've discussed this in my Discord a little bit, is the words are violence type of thing. Once that ball started rolling, I don't even know how it started, but I remember hearing like left-wingers say, words are violence, words are violence. And that's why you guys, I think it's one of the reasons you're seeing everything ramp up where you are, is because people have been convinced that, government officials have been convinced, words are violence. It's the same. Someone saying bad things on the internet is the very same thing as someone physically assaulting someone else. So we have to nip that in the butt.
They've described it as online violence.
Yeah. And I want to make it clear too. I'm not saying that like people should go out and like bully and say awful things to people online, but there's it's not even close to you going out and physically harming someone, or you sharing your thoughts on, something that happened, with immigration or the trans community or the gay community. Mm-hmm. It's not the same at all.
Well, I agree with Arkansas saying in the chat that threats are still a thing.
Yes.
But I agree with that. Like, my definition of online violence is incitement. If you're going online and you're telling people to go out and, commit violent acts, in the name of whatever,
yes,
then that's online violence. Mm-hmm. But if you're going on and saying hurty words about someone, or you're highlighting someone's hypocrisy, then that's certainly not. The scariest one for me, Shags, was there was a specific lady, and the way they've described it is she is being locked up for basically putting out incorrect information in a Facebook message. So this specific lady is it was in connection to the Southport killings. I know you guys obviously know what happened. The young girls were at a Taylor Swift dance class, and a crazed gentleman come in there, committing horrific acts. I don't want to go into too much detail.
Right. No. Yeah.
Because we're on YouTube. But basically, he went in there, done what he did, and obviously, the country's mad about it. And the media and the police are often accused in our country of, it's what they're calling a two-tier policing, as where if it's a British native that commits a crime, or the way the media deal with it and the police is a lot different than if it's with specifically an immigrant, especially the ones that they call refugees that came here illegally. So if a crime happens with one of them, they don't name the suspect straight away, or they will not report on the actual crime happening at all. Like there was even yesterday, we had a Manchester police officer who was stabbed by an African migrant on duty, and it didn't even make the national news.
That there was something. There was God, I forget who it was. Oh, you know who it was, and this everyone will like laugh when I say the name, but Ann Coulter had pointed out on Bill Maher how um how you can always tell. Essentially, what she said was you can always tell um who's done like one of these heinous crimes because of how quickly you find out the person's
Yeah.
race in America.
Hmm.
If you don't hear right away, it's likely someone who is either an illegal immigrant or someone of color.
Hmm.
Um, and that's, but as soon as, but if it was a white person, that would be like headlines, like first on the news, like, oh, see, which, you know, I'm not, this is one of the problems with labels, right? Is like people become so obsessed with labeling everything. And now it just causes, because of that, it automatically causes division between people because you're compartmentalizing everyone. Oh, you belong in this box and this box and
That's
this
right.
box. And it's
So
just,
basically, what had happened, Shags? This lady had put out a message on Facebook because once this atrocity happened in Southport with the young girls, the first thing that had been released, the information the public got an hour after it happened, was a 17-year-old boy has been arrested for, for the death of two kids at the time, and one died the next day. All we can tell you is he's 17, so we can't release his name, and it is a mental health issue. It's not terror related. So within an hour, they probably haven't even interviewed the suspect yet, and they've already released to the public that don't worry, it's not terror related. This isn't something you've got to be scared of. It was just a mental health act. And this isn't the first time that they've used the, in inverted commas, mental health to describe a crime that would normally, that had it been perpetrated by, I don't know, say a white guy against a person of color, it would immediately be labeled as a racist attack, or, but with these, they just said, no, it's mental health. It isn't a targeted attack where they were targeting whatever, non-Muslims or whites. It was a specific attack, because we had another one, the Russell Square attack, which was a little while ago, and same thing. They said, no, it's a mental health thing. This has got nothing to do with terrorism. And the perpetrator of the attack was a young Muslim lad, and he had been having bad thoughts of, he wanted to go out and commit violent crimes against non-Muslims. So he went down to his local mosque and he told them, yeah, this is, I want to go out and kill non-Muslims. Now, the mosques obviously have a duty to report these kind of, terrorist or what's the word? Radicalized people. They have a duty to report them to the police, obviously.
mhm.
And they didn't. They said, all right, we'll say a prayer for you. And then when he left the mosque, he went into London to the built up area in the city centre, and he stabbed 7 people, and he killed an American tourist
Wow.
as well. Yeah. And straight away, police said, no, it's got nothing to do with terrorism. It's not terror related. And I believe the reason they do that, obviously, is to try and keep the normal indigenous British people from believing that the uncontrolled mass immigration that we have been subjected to by the government, that no one really wanted, that
Mhm.
we actually have voted against previously, is something that we shouldn't worry about. And it's not a problem, and even though a lot of people, for like, even with the previous government, you can't really put this all on Labour, yeah, because a lot of people now are just trying to blame Keir Starmer, who has only been in government for 4 weeks. Although he has really spectacularly handled his responses to these riots badly, you can't solely put the blame on the reason for people rioting on him. And that is the truth. Like,
Yeah.
because we had a conservative government for the past 14 years, and you wouldn't believe we had a conservative government, because a lot of their policies, for the most part, mirrored your Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be the opposite, you know. Like we have the same sort of, three party system, like with the two big ones, but our reds and blues are switched, so our red is it is like the Republican part. It's the other
The
way around.
Democrats.
The color,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, our reds is like the Democrats, and our blues is our Conservative Party, which is supposed to be like the Republicans.
Mm.
But they're not. They got accused of being like neoliberal conservatives is the term that was being thrown around. They were basically they had the same kind of policies that Tony Blair had, and Tony Blair, who was the Labour Prime Minister, he was a very different prime minister to any other sort of Labour candidate they had prior to that. He was more of a what they call a Tory over here. He was more of a conservative Labour candidate. So it's kind of like there is no difference in the big two over here at the moment. Like,
Wow, that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, in terms of policies. So they say, oh well, you vote your way out of this. But when you've got nothing to vote, like when all the policies are the same, and when the people are asking, well, look, we just want to have a conversation about this. Can you just let us know? Whether it be on immigration or fair and balanced policing or what's being taught in the schools. If you're having the wrong opinion, like in your country, you get, especially online, you get immediately labeled as a bigot, and they throw these words racist, bigot around as if it means that your opinion doesn't count anymore. If you're labeled with one of them words, then it's you shouldn't be heard. You're a fascist, and you obviously have bad intentions. But it's not always the case. We're the same as you guys are having it. You're getting people bust into your towns and cities, put up in hotels. I mean, America's a lot bigger. Like, we're at the point now where the leisure industry, you literally could not book a hotel room anywhere.
Oh, wow. Oh, because that's where they're putting them all there too. Just
wow. Like literally, I think in the last year they have brought into the country what they call, refugees or asylum seekers.
Mm-hmm.
But they've come in on small boats through trafficking routes from France. And our law is supposed to be that if you enter the country illegally or through trafficking, you can't claim asylum. But they seem to have bent the law for these people. And it's happening all over Europe. And like I said, in America too, where they're coming into the country with no documents. These are unchecked, unvetted migrants. They're all military age men, as they're being described, as in, men between the ages of 17 to 35 predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming from, countries where there's been troubles, I guess, but they're also coming from countries where there isn't a conflict currently happening, and they're traveling across 16 different safe countries to get to Britain. So you can't really say that a lot of them, are fleeing a conflict because they've just walked through 16 safe places. They have an agenda of where they want to get to. And each one of these gentlemen cost the taxpayer £40,000 each a year.
Wow.
Like, no, not like each taxpayer is paying £40,000. But each one of those guys is costing the taxpayer £40,000 a year.
Right.
That's more than what most taxpayers are making, Shags. So you've got people that are going to work, busting their ass off to earn 25 grand a year. They're in a position where they're renting because with inflation and house prices are so high, they're never going to buy a house. They're never going to be a homeowner, and they're struggling to make ends meet. And then you've got a guy that's turned up on a boat with nothing, can't even speak English. And he's been put in a 4-star hotel, given an allowance, has, like they're all eating at restaurants and stuff in the area while you're so you can see why people are a little bit annoyed about it. And we've always been a welcoming nation as far as I've been alive, and we do rely on actual immigrants, to run the country. A lot of our doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, people in the food industry and stuff, they are immigrants. But these are not the people are complaining about. People are talking about the ones that I said that are like unvetted, unchecked, that are here illegally, that there has been a big plan paid out for, because the infrastructure is all in place for them to come. So personally, I can't see a stop to it anytime soon if the infrastructure is all in place. And if the infrastructure is all in place, obviously, you know, it means that although the leisure industry isn't doing too good, the hotels are still being paid, you know.
Right.
Although they've been laying off people, like people have been losing their jobs and stuff because they don't need as many people now. The
Also
owners
the leisure industry, like as you put it, is like, I mean, it's not, I mean, yeah, you have these the migrants that are occupying the hotels, and the hotels are being paid. But the other part of, you know, people being away, Americans go to the UK to sightsee, spend money at restaurants, spend money at attractions, spend money at museums, all this stuff. Those people are not doing that. So it's a big, you know, again, it's yay for hotels making money, but it's all these other industries that are affected as well. That
the other thing is in this country, our healthcare system is at capacity. It's really hard at the moment to get a doctor's appointment for your children or a dental appointment for your children. You know, we do have the NHS system, you know, like we have, you guys have private healthcare, don't you? Well, we do have a national health service, but we also do have private. So if you have money, you can just go private. But if you're like one of the poor or a working class person and you're relying on, you know, NHS doctors, it's really hard at the moment to get a space. Whereas these gentlemen that are coming in, because they are all gentlemen, they're not families, as we're being told. They're all getting free dental, free healthcare, and preferential treatment. Like I said, a lot of the times you'll try. My mum just had to pay like $600 to go private to get a tooth out, whereas she is entitled to, you know, NHS dentistry, but because of the backup, they were telling her she'd have to wait up to 9 months.
is there a plan? Sorry if I can interrupt real quick. Is there like an exit plan for these gentlemen who are coming into the country and who are on the government teat, as it were?
Well, no. The plan is to integrate them into society. You know, like, and I don't really see that. Like I said, we have a lot of migrants in the country. You know, like legal immigrants, people or third generation immigrants, people that come here after the Second World War to help us rebuild our country.
Right.
You know, people from the Commonwealth countries, and we rely on these people. You know what I mean? And they are the backbone of our country, as well as the British indigenous working class. And everyone knows that. But at the moment, if you speak up about these illegals, they try and make out that you're speaking against those people when you're not. You know, and there is no exit plan, Shags. They'd have no. That's what people are asking. Like, what is the plan here? Why are you taking all these people? They literally let in this year the same amount of people that would populate the city of Glasgow in Scotland, right? Like one of the biggest cities in Scotland. But they haven't built, you know, the same amount of schools, hospitals, and everything that they have in Glasgow to accommodate these people. No, they're expected to. I think, we're already at sort of double the capacity of our population for the services we have on this small little island, basically. And people are really feeling the strain now.
Yeah, and I don't know if you understood what I was saying, but I do want to clarify for like people listening and you, like exit strategy. I mean, I don't mean like leave the country necessarily. I mean like they're not going. They'll be like independent of, you know, the government help. So they'll hold their own job. They'll hold their own insurance, whether that's NHS or private, whatever. Because again, we have the same issue here in the U.S. too. So I'm not saying like, oh, we have it figured out, because we don't. You know, I mean, there's systems here, especially surrounding healthcare and whatnot, that just suck. They're not great. They're there, but they're not necessarily efficient. And even our immigration right now is just an absolute mess. We're dealing with the same things where a lot of migrants are just being tossed into cities, and they're getting monthly allowances.
They
Again,
do
on the
cash work, they do like Uber jobs, food delivery and stuff like that,
right.
because they can't actually. This is the thing, a lot of these gentlemen, if you are fleeing a war-torn area and you do, there is infrastructure in place for real refugees, where
Yeah.
you'll learn English, you'll be, given a social security number, and you can claim benefits and stuff, and then when you're ready to go get a job, you go get a job, and no one begrudges that. We've
Right.
had people that come here during, when I was a kid in the 90s, there was the Kosovo conflict, like in the
Yeah.
former Yugoslavia, and we, in the town where I grew up, they brought in a lot of people from Kosovo and Bosnia, and they went on to have kids here, and they're normal British kids that have jobs and that are normal functioning members of society, and we want that. We're happy to have that, but a lot of these people that they're bringing in, we don't know what their background is. Yeah. We don't know what they were doing in their country. Yeah. We don't know whether they've been involved in, been child soldiers or seen stuff that no British kid would have saw. So they're obviously coming here with a different set of core values than us, and they're being, they're being separated away from the rest of society. They're put into these little hotels away from everybody. And
Yep.
I can't see it. The amount that they've brought in, and the amount they're continuing to bring in, and not just here. This is like everywhere. For instance, there was a small Italian island called Lampedusa. The population of the island is 4,000, and it's predominantly tourists. Yeah. Within a 2-week period, they had 12,000 African males turn up. Yeah, 12,000, all on boats. So you try and tell me that 12,000 African gentlemen all had the same idea within a 12-day period to jump on a boat from their country off their own back and just go to Lampedusa to seek asylum. You're trying to tell me that there isn't someone above them pulling the strings, telling them where to go and what to do.
That's wild, because how would any infrastructure support that, and so, and why would, I mean, the only thing I can think of, and of course, if I securely tighten the tinfoil hat, is that, the government does this intentionally in order, and it is reported that these are men going there of their own free will, in order to say, hey, look, there is a problem. See, now we need all this. We need to give them all this stuff. We need infrastructure. We need to, build and give them all this stuff and use taxpayer money for that. That's what I think. I mean, or you could make that excuse that that's what it was. I don't know for sure. And again, if we're gonna, because that's the problem, is they're not going to come out and say, oh yeah, we did that, and it was for this reason, but you and I will talk about it, and then some lefty will pop up and be like, you're crazy. Oh, what are you talking about? Like, well, I mean, what else makes sense? That all of a sudden the population is tripled, over a 2-week period. Like that's nuts. That's a crazy amount of people.
And that's like you said. And if you mention it, or question it, then you're accused of being, like you said, a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist or a racist.
Oh, race. Yeah. Oh, you don't want these people to, have a good home. Like, no, what are you talking about? And of course, and that's the thing. I think that people are like, that's what conservatives get accused of. And I don't even consider myself a conservative, first of all. Like they'll say like you're against immigration. I'm not against immigration. I want people to come to the United States. I think the United States and the UK to some extent, I've never been there, but I think it's some of the best places in the world to live, without a doubt.
Definitely. Like, we're the best country in the world, and use a close second.
Wait, whoa. Hey, we left you guys behind. All right. No, yeah. And like that's, I mean, I want people to come here, and I want people to experience it and live a life and make the best for themselves and their family, however they can. I don't want people to not come here. I'm not one of those people who's like, close the border, never let anyone in. No, not at all.
And nor am I.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was saying, nor am I. I'm the same as you, Shags. Okay. If someone wants to come here, like I said, I was in construction. I work with guys from Poland, Lithuania, like all over Europe that come here to work, professional people that were smarter than I was, you know, like, I don't begrudge someone like that coming here. I don't begrudge all of the like care workers that we have from like the Philippines and Indonesia and Africa that come here to work. You know, we've always had those people and we always should have those people. We just are against unvetted migrants that we have to pay for, you know.
Right.
Like, and I see, you know, there's a lot of videos circulated of these protests at the minute. And I saw a video yesterday of a young lady being interviewed at the protest, and the man was questioning her on the immigration thing. He said to her, "Do you think immigration is a problem?" She said, "Of course, immigration is not a problem. You know, like our country relies on immigration." And he goes, "No, no, I'm talking about illegal immigration." And she said, "They're not illegal immigrants, they're refugees." And he said to her, "Okay, well, I'm talking about, you know, people having to pay for these refugees." And she's like, "Oh, the taxpayer doesn't pay for refugees. Like, there's so many. Like, who does she think pays for these people? Does she think, oh, the government pays for them? Well, who pays for the government?"
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't understand, like, our taxpayer dollars go to, I mean, a lot of them go to these programs in which they are benefiting from. It's not all of it for sure, but it's enough to be like, well, I don't want any of my money going there. Like, my money is supposed to go to, unfortunately, schools and all this other crap. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it should be going to, the stuff that I use. And, you know, if I'm paying into, I should be able to have access to that. The people are not paying into it. And this is even people in this country already. If you're not paying into that, you shouldn't be having access to that. Again, I think there are instances, but it is, I mean, we do have laws in place that, you know, if you're seeking asylum, you come to a port of entry and you claim asylum and you go through the steps as it is in our legal system. You don't just run across the Rio Grande or whatever and hey, I need, you know, no. I mean, there was even, I don't know how much you know of this, but there was even in Texas, there was state border patrol and federal border patrol. And
Yeah, I did see this.
Yeah. So the state was throwing people back across the border and they were like in brown uniforms and the Fed guys were in green and they were taking everyone, load them up on buses. So naturally all the people running across the border are like sprinting to the federal agents to, I mean, I'm being a little hyperbolic, obviously, but they're trying to seek them out so they don't get tossed back over, instead, you know, shipped off to one of the cities or whatever, so they could get in. It's just, it's
Well, that's
a
the thing.
mess.
That's why they never prior would legitimize your asylum claim if you would come here illegally, because you are literally encouraging trafficking routes. You know, you're
Right.
encouraging more people to try and get here illegally through trafficked routes just to get that asylum status. You know, and like I said, if you are genuinely fleeing a conflict, you know, or you are, you know, an economic migrant and you want to come here to work or go anywhere else in the world to work, you should be allowed to do that.
Right.
It's just like I said, when we have people on our streets that we don't know where they come from, we don't know what their background is, and they are committing crimes, you know, like horrific crimes, and it's becoming more regular. And then when you've got it being covered up by the media and the government because they're scared we'll get angry about it, there's most definitely a problem.
Yeah.
And I think the things that people, if you ask the most, you know, everyday man, like, what do you think the problems are in our country right now? They'll say to you, firstly, cost of living crisis. Yeah, because that's what it's been describing now. People just haven't got money at the moment. Inflation's through the roof. Everything's costing more. The housing market's screwed. You know, first time buyers, like my kids will probably never own a house, Shags, and a lot of people's kids will never own a house because it's not like when we were kids and our parents could afford, you know, a mortgage on one salary and your mum could stay at home and your dad would go out to work. That's a thing of the past and everywhere, you know. So cost of living is the primary thing people will say. And then second, they'll say probably knife crime. You know, people being stabbed up in cities and in
Wait,
towns.
wait a minute. You're saying that if you take guns away, people will start stabbing each other?
Oh, mate, if you take knives away, they'll probably start spooning each other. Like people, people will find a way to inflict violence on other people for dumb reasons. It'll always happen. But
Yep.
yeah, like I said, so it's secondly knife crime, and thirdly is immigration, right? And like I said, when you're at a point where both of the big parties, who are supposed to represent the word of the people, have policies that don't reflect fixing any of these problems, and when they're actively dodging these problems, and they'll tell you, yeah, we're on top of it, the cost of living is really important to us, but we're going to send another 50 billion to the Ukraine, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yep.
Our old people are freezing to death during the winter, yeah, and you're sending money to a proxy war in another country that we didn't vote for, that we want no part of, that we haven't had a referendum for,
Hey, well, at least your country didn't just discover it sent 230 million to the Taliban and don't know why.
Oh yeah.
That's fun to learn as an American taxpayer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have a lot of these policies that the government that decide for us that we didn't vote on, and like I said before, you could go on Twitter and have a moan about it, but it seems that with the new government, I think people have realized that they're trying to take that voice away from us. They're we're literally in a time where your words are being used against you, and it's scary. I did my first podcast earlier since all this is kicking off, and it's one that I do with my friend Commie Mark, and he plays a bit of a character. Mark. Yeah. You know Mark. He leans into the commie thing. So we do often get a bit political on there. It's believe it or not, it's not all just hating on Eric July and or Comicsgate. It is quite political. But it was the first time that I've streamed that I was actually worried that, what, if I say the wrong thing on here, I could actually, get a knock on the door tomorrow if the wrong person hears it. I could potentially face jail time, just for my words being deemed to incite violence. That's the terms they're using, and it is a bit ridiculous. It is. Some of the stuff, to be honest, I don't even want to get into, Shags. I don't really want to get into although the two-tier policing thing, it is an issue. Like I said, if you get into it too deep, it gets into the conversation of anti-faith rhetoric, shall we say, and I want to try and be respectable of everyone's faiths, because although
that's, I mean, the shitty part of it is what people don't understand is when you're discussing something, when you're discussing something that you believe, there's always the chance that you're speaking from your own personal experience of things and the things that you prefer. So naturally, there's going to be something antithetical to that. And it doesn't mean that thing can't exist, or you don't want it to exist, or it should somehow be cast out with violence, right? Like, it just means that I don't necessarily agree with this particular thing. This group happens to be involved with that.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier, is that these media outlets and government officials have been twisted to think that speaking on something is akin to actually committing violence. In this country, in the US, we have laws against actionable speech. We could say whatever we want, but the incitement of violence is not protected. It won't be protected. And the UK needs to start adopting that as well. And unfortunately, you guys don't have a similar law in place, but I mean,
We
It's
kind
not.
of do, but the reason Shags, they're saying it's 2-tier, right?
Mhm.
We've had a lot of protests for the hot. Well, you guys have had too for the past year with the conflict that's going on in Gaza, right, and Israel.
Yeah.
So since October 7th, we've literally had weekly protests where London is descended upon by predominantly pro-Palestinian protesters, and some of them are out of hand. You know, they're carrying placards and slogans with anti-Semitic rhetoric on them. That's
Oof.
illegal. It's totally illegal. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of, like I said, we're a multicultural, diverse nation. Yeah. So we've imported people from a lot of different countries, African countries, Middle Eastern countries. The government try and paint this picture. You know, there's murals in every town and city with all different color kids playing with each other. Um, I hate to tell you, that's not actually the truth. Although we are multicultural and diverse, we're certainly not integrated.
Yeah.
There's certain communities that really do not get on, have never got on, and never will get on, you know. And the media will try and tell you, no, it's all good. We're all friends, you know, we're all diversity is our strength. It's not. Like literally especially the Jewish community in London have been terrified for the past since October, because when these protests are happening, there has been videos on social media of what are the little hats called? Is it kapor? The little Jewish
Yarmulkes.
yarmulke, that thing, right?
Yep.
They're wearing those in the street at a protest, and a policeman comes up to him and says, "Listen, mate, you look too Jewish. You should leave the air. You should leave the area." And
What?
the man was like, "Excuse me," and he's like, "You look too openly Jewish right now. There's more of these guys than there is of me. So my advice to you is to leave the area, or I might have to arrest you." Like,
Wow.
yeah, it's nuts, man. Like I said, and they paint this picture that everyone gets along, but we all know that there is conflicts going on around the world where, you know, there's bad blood, and they've imported that here, you know.
It's funny because they don't even bother doing that shit here. They just like, nope, you guys are all you all hate each other. Civil war is coming. Like that's the shit they do here. Is like it's like purposely trying to like break
You think
break.
so?
I mean, that's what it feels like anyway here. Like when I watch news or anything, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like, and even global news. It's just like, oh, let's just shit on the U.S., shit on Republicans, shit on Democrats, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no one pretending that there's like, oh, we're happy, we're a good family. Nope, it's all. I mean, because I mean, for a long time, not even just the last like 4 years, I think the U.S. has just been painted, the international bully, which may or may not be true.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we're just like white people are supposed to have some sort of guilt for being
Yep.
white. The
Yeah.
U.S.
Same.
had like the U.S. because of its imperialist past and colonizers or whatever. We also need to also feel some sort of guilt attached to that, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's BS. And because most of the people, if not all the people who are saying this shit now, have never felt a moment of oppression in their life. They've lived in the lap of luxury of modern
Oh yeah,
day.
we're both lucky to be born in the countries we're born in. And yeah, you
Yeah,
have to realize that for sure.
it's wild too because I mean it's having to explain to my kid. This is such a first world problem, right? My son, he's just really difficult when it comes to eating. He's 7 years old. He's very picky, and the other day he was eating this really good meal that my wife made, and he's like, "This is the worst. This is disgusting." And I was like, "Do you?" And I just looked at him, and I know he doesn't fully understand, but I was trying to explain. I was like, some kids eat out of the garbage. Like they don't have nice food like we do. They don't just go to the refrigerator and get food when they want. They can't even go to a store and buy it whenever they want. They have to like work all day and then come home and then hope there's something there. And it's just crazy. Like kids, you just don't. You don't
Yeah.
realize how lucky
You've
you
got
are to
you've
be
got
here.
kids with that same mentality as your 7-year-old that are on protests right now, Shags. You've
Mhm.
got kids that are literally, in university, and it's the in thing to be, a protester at the moment, to share your voice with the world, like, and get out on the streets and spread your message. But like, they've all been hijacked now by this weird, like, aggressive, you have to choose a side. You either with, Israel, or you with Palestine. We need to know. It's like, well,
Yeah.
no, you don't.
Yep.
I don't I don't need to pick a side, especially since I'm supposed to represent a multicultural, diverse society such as Britain,
Mhm.
where we have people from both sides of that conflict and both religions that live here, that are both my neighbors, and we're all supposed to get along,
Yep.
and like I said, it was really scary this week, where we had this first riot kick off. You had unrest on the streets, and the leader of the country's response initially was to firstly condemn the violence, as you would expect, right? But he blamed it all on one specific group of people. He said that they were all far right, like agitators.
I'm so sick of
And
hearing that term.
a mosque wall got kicked over in that. Basically, it broke out in Southport. Um, there was a vigil for the girls that had been murdered in the city centre. So it was mainly local people from the area.
Mhm.
Some man turned up at the vigil with a balaclava on, with knives, and he was arrested. As it turns out, the guy was not a Middle Eastern gentleman. He wasn't a Muslim. His name was Jordan. So he was only named after the Middle East. He wasn't actually Middle Eastern himself. But
Yeah.
it got back to the people in the individual that there was a gentleman of Middle Eastern origin that had just been arrested down the road, coming for them. So a few of them, because there probably was some far right agitators in the crowd, said, right, let's go down this road in the town centre, which is kind of, where there's a mosque, and at the time there was a lot of misinformation being put out online that the perpetrator of the crime, who happened to be a British citizen who was born of Rwandan parents, there had been misinformation put out online that he was a Muslim gentleman with a Muslim name. So, people in the area was angry and wanted someone to be angry at. So they decided to go down that area and protest. But obviously the police were there. I don't think anyone actually got hurt from the Muslim community that day. But a mosque was attacked. You can't deny it. And that's deplorable. You should never take it out on the Muslim community because an extremist has committed something in the name of Islam. It's not the Muslim people's fault.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with them, and it's got nothing to do with their mosques. But these people went down there, started smashing up the place. They set police cars on fire. So the Prime Minister's response was to say, yes, I condemn the violence. We know who the perpetrators are. It's the far right. They've gone and attacked mosques. He didn't even mention the murders of the girls. He just said that you guys are now going to feel the full force of the law. We know it's the far right, and it is my duty as the leader of this country to protect the Muslim community. And and it's just like, what? Like, it's your job to protect one specific community. How could he come out and say that? Like,
Yeah.
he's supposed to. His job is to keep every single community in the country safe, not favor one over another. Like, and that's how it come across. Like, it was just a bit of a tone deaf response, and if anything, it only fanned the flames. And for the next 2 or 3 days, you had a lot of other protests spring up that then basically descended into people smashing up their own town centres, looting some shops. Two of those migrant hotels that I mentioned were set on fire with people in them. No one was hurt in the fires. But the optics that the media were getting was far right rioters across the country.
Yeah.
So you had literally, you know, the whole news was covering it, far right riots break out. So then some counter protests happened where you had, you know, the left and stand up to racism groups like that were coming out in counter protest. And there was trouble at some of those. But the media seemed to not be putting any of that up. All they were putting up was the right wing violence, you know. And then this week there was a load of false reports put out that there was going to be around 100 further right wing protests in heavily Muslim populated areas. So you had in all of the Muslim communities and in a few of the predominantly people of color communities in London, you had big outpouring of people, you know, to counter protest, but these far right didn't turn up. Yeah. So all you had out on the streets was lots of counter protesters. And when I say counter protesters, I mean people out with balaclavas, bats, machetes, standing on the street. Yeah. No police presence whatsoever. Like,
Jesus.
yeah. But if 80 of me and my friends decided to come out on the street with bats and knives, you can guarantee there would be police there with like riot gear on, shields, dogs, the full lot. But
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
Without a doubt.
and the media didn't want to, you know, play any of these videos, and there was videos of it all over social media. And now when that's the reason why people are basically that they're trying to say basically if you're putting footage up of you know, a riot or a video of, for instance, you know, a group of Muslim lads smashing up a car and pulling the man out of it, you know, if you're sharing them videos and it's deemed that you're trying to incite violence, and I don't understand who's the person that's going to deem it, you know, insightful. But if it's deemed insightful, you can get arrested for posting those videos now too, you know,
You're just at the mercy
doing the
of,
media's job,
yeah.
yeah.
And you're at the mercy of whatever schlep is if he's having a good day or not,
Mm-hmm.
to basically go down there and haul you away or report you. It's just wild. And
It's
I
backfired in their face every time, those Shags. Like you had a Labour councillor, so he's the current government. He's a councillor, and he was at the big anti-racism march in Croydon. And this was the one that they were putting all over the newspaper saying, oh, look, we've defeated the far right. We've had this many people come out. They all had the same signage at this sporadic, unplanned protest. Like literally like thousands of signs. And there was 3 different protests that all had these same signs. So, you know, it was organized. But at one of the events, this Labour councillor is filmed saying, yeah, we're going to defeat the far right. All of these horrible Nazi fascist bastards, we need to slit all of their throats. And then went, free, free Palestine. And everyone went, yeah, and started cheering. But it got caught on camera and shared on social media. And they had to arrest him. Like he's been suspended from the Labour Party for incitement. And he's now been charged with trying to incite violent disorder. And like I said, there was a man who is got sentenced to 26 months at a right-wing protest for repeatedly gesturing and shouting at a police officer. He got 26 months. Yeah. So people are trying to say that this specific gentleman, for his comments, should get more than 26 months. Because the way incitement works too, if you're inciting assault, so if you say, oh, Kenzo's an idiot, everyone, I want you guys to go out and bash Kenzo's head in with a baseball bat. Yeah.
Yep.
You would get charged for bashing my head in with a baseball bat. You would get a proportionate sentence to reflect what you were trying. So obviously, if you've told them to go out and do something a lot worse to me, like to end me,
Yeah.
then obviously you should get the same charge as that. And I don't really, I can't see them handing out a charge to this gentleman for, proportionately for what he was asking.
Yeah, that's a bit nuts.
It's
I mean,
insane. It's
yeah,
crazy.
insane. Yeah. Um, well, I mean, this is one of those times too, and I think you've said it at some point tonight that you just kind of want to unplug from this and not
Yeah.
and just kind of turn your back to it because and I think and I've spoken about this past couple of days at some point or another that it seems to be what the powers that be want is that you to ignore it and let them handle it. But you see where it gets us in that it gets shit policies. And honestly, like that this sentiment of wanting to sort of retreat into myself or away from these events is expands not just in politics but into a lot of other aspects and um, pop culture, entertainment, and I've become pretty apathetic with some of the stuff I've been surrounded with over the past couple of months. I think you and I have talked briefly on it here and there. Because
I did see a tweet you put out, Shags, that said Lofty Pixels has the right idea.
Yeah.
The pop culture thing is devoid of substance and that you need to focus on developing your stories. And for me, that was spot on, mate.
I mean, it's just I've said it a few times in my streams, and it's crazy, but I've said the message I try and put out to people, it almost puts me out of a job as far as YouTube goes because I want people to go out into the world and experience it and unplug from Twitter, Facebook, all these social media websites, and even from like Twitch and YouTube to an extent. It's hurting so many people. They can't even think unless they're told something. And I see it constantly with even the commentators in Hollywood or like some of the fellowship creators, some of Comicsgate creators, like these people are so obsessed and twisted that not necessarily the commentators, but their audience, that if they don't have them telling them something, they don't know what to do. But as soon as they say something, they're just like yapping the same thing. And I'm like, this hurts. And I think I tweeted today, or maybe I was thinking it, but being a moderate, someone who's just like, I don't really care, or I want to experience good things, and yeah, sometimes I'll experience bad things, and it's just how it goes. Like you can't even have that stance anymore because, and
the tribal element is strong within each community,
right? I shared what's his name, Lex Friedman's tweet today, which I thought was really good, and I thought it kind of embodied what I thought, and I went through the comments a little bit. And the second one in was like, well, you're a fence sitter, and that's not. I was like, fuck these people, man. I'm so sick of the again, it's just labels. Doesn't matter if you're a liberal, doesn't matter if you're Democrat or conservative. Everyone's got to fucking label somebody something. Oh, you're a fence sitter, you're a this, you're a that, you're a cuck, you're what? I'm like, fucking go touch grass already.
You can have an opinion from the fence.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to throw it in, don't mean you don't have one. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, especially with a lot of this shit, like I said, it's so tribal. Sometimes it's not even worth getting into the argument, or getting involved in the discourse because, it's got to the point, especially within, like you said, the community that we found each other in. From just following certain people or having a certain person on your show, like you've experienced, interviewing someone, you'll lose followers, or someone will be like, oh, well, fuck you. You're not coming on my show anymore if you've got that guy on. It's got ridiculous. You can't just have a conversation with people anymore.
Yep. Yeah, it sucks because I don't know if that'd be welcome in certain spaces within the fellowship. I mean, I know some people don't give a shit, but I know there's some that likely, be like, oh no, man, I don't want, you
gave this person you platformed this person, you shouldn't even give them a platform to speak. They're an asshole. It's like, well, they're still a fucking You know, just having them on and having a conversation with them is not gonna fucking hurt anybody, you know. And
Well, it just
it's
shows you too
ridiculous.
how tough a lot of these people talk, but they're
Yeah,
just as
how
soft as
fragile.
the people
Yeah,
they make fun of, you know?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. And that goes both ways, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
it does. It does go both ways. You know,
Yeah.
there's diehard rabid fans in most fan bases, and uh, even though a lot of the creators do not will actively be against telling their fans to go out and attack people on their behalf,
Mhm.
they know it happens, you
Yeah.
know, and they're happy to see it. And for the most part, they won't call it out when it does happen. They'll just ignore it, or it's part of the internet experience now. And that's what I mean. The more I got into it, over the sort of 2 years that I've been doing it, like I quickly got disinterested. I didn't want to get into that kind of shit,
Right.
you know, like especially like being an artist myself. Obviously, I'm so overcritical of my own work. I'll put something out and I think, oh my god, that's so shit. And even though I've got people telling me, man, that looks great, like
Yeah.
I find it shit myself, you know. And now you've got literally people tearing each other's comic books to bits, you know. Like someone will put a comic book out and they'll be like, oh, the art in that's crap. Look at this. You've used 3D assets. You've used photo bashing. Like, I think people are just being a bit not overcritical, but you know, there's critique in something and there's just
A
being a
total bitch.
bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, and most of the people I think who are doing a lot of this,
Mm.
well, I mean, the people who are loudest, I think, are like artists themselves, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in both communities who couldn't like do a stick figure properly.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they're like going balls deep in it. And I'm just like, shut your fucking mouth. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can critique art, sure.
You can, yeah, for
Um,
sure. You don't, it's one of them things in it. Like you don't have to be a movie director to critique movie directing. Yeah.
right.
Like people have eyes. Like if you enjoy art, you enjoy it for whatever reasons you enjoy it for. You know,
Yeah.
I own comic books with terrible art in them, but the
Yeah.
story's great. You know, and
Hmm.
so kind of the art don't matter so much. You like it for the story. You like something for whatever reason. If it means something to you, you know, if it resonates with you and you connect with it, you know. And just because you do, and if someone else, this is the thing that gets me a lot. I think we had a conversation about this as well, is if you really do like something for whatever, if you're a Comicsgate fan or if you're a Rippaverse fan, and if you're a Rippaverse fan and you think that Ice on One was the best story that you've ever read, and you thought the artwork was the greatest artwork that you've ever seen, and some asshole comes along and says, nah, that book's dog shit, it's full of 3D assets, the story's bullshit, the art's crap, yeah, like people will immediately get their back up and be like, what are you talking about, you asshole? Like, how can you say that? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, hold on a minute. Like, that person's opinion in no way, shape, or form diminishes your own personal enjoyment. You
Right.
know, if you like that book and you like that story, what I think about it does not change that at all. You know,
Exactly. You're
I'm
both
not
right.
saying, yeah, you're both right. And people just can't, you know, get to that conclusion, or they can't agree to disagree. You
Yeah.
know, they have to defend their chosen one, you know, their
Yeah.
parasocial icon. Like,
Well, no one
and
can
I'll,
leave it alone, right? Because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
making everyone money. It's like they
Mm.
make so much money over it. Why would you leave it alone? Well, I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
give up, thousands of dollars a week for, some of these
I
guys.
fell into it, Shags. I'm not gonna lie. Some of that content on both sides, I didn't
Yeah.
just like was entertaining, you
Yeah.
know, like monetize your haters back in the day. That was funny.
Right.
Like I used to watch that, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Mr. July, and I'm not really have been. He was never like a person that I would watch that much. I would watch clips of him and see him in other shows. But while he was doing that monetize your haters, I watched a hell of a lot of that because it was funny. It was a drama. It was like
Yeah.
a Jerry Springer esque, like that kind of that kind of vibe to it. You know,
Right.
like
Well,
just
that and
getting into it. Yeah.
and so what's funny is that you're totally right. And I think when he did the segment, it was hilarious. And I agree. The issue becomes is the internet's forever, right? So you
Mhm.
can't you can't do something like that and then put out a serious business and, you know, expect people not to dig up the past, especially when it's, oh, cat, stop. Especially when it's all over the internet and you can just go grab, oh, hey, look what you said this time. Like, that's not very professional, you know? And then, so but it's this totally destructive circle on everyone's part, you know, like what he can't say something in the past that A was funny and likely true, and then, but also run a legitimate business in the future. Like, you don't have to agree with the business. You don't have to like the art, but some people do. Like, he is successful in some way. You know, rip it apart all you want.
And especially if your day-to-day prior to doing that was literally critiquing other people's media, you know, whether it be Hollywood, you know, or whatever, or just TV shows. If you're critiquing those and then you decide to put out media yourself, and then people start critiquing it, giving it bad reviews, pulling up issues with it, and then you start accusing these people of acting in bad faith, saying, oh, you're only criticizing my work because you don't like me, or this and that. You're kind of as bad as the people that you yourself was accusing of that, you know. Disney shills, you're saying, oh, you Disney shills, you're only saying that the Acolyte is good because, you know, you're getting perks and privileges for saying so. You're acting in bad faith, you know. That shows dog shit. It's like, well, it's just the same argument, and we're seeing it all over, where it sort of exposes this kind of hypocrisy, man. And if you call it out, like I found out the hard way, you lose access to certain circles, and certain people unfollow you, and you get lumped in with a certain group, you know, and you get and it's all too tiresome, Shags. You know, I left high school fucking nearly 30 years ago, mate. I do not need to get into this kind of tribal bullshit now, you know.
And that's just it, is like it people are being tribal for the sake of being tribal, and they're like riding coattails and clout chasing shit. And again, and you and I are too old to do that. We're just like, no, like we're good. We've dealt with that drama. I'd rather have fewer people following me and watching me and just be authentic. Like, I don't, you know, and that was the thing that kind of beat me up so much about people sort of leaving me behind, unfollowing me after interviewing like EVS and Dick Masterson was, and even Vito, because I thought, hey, like, I think I'm doing a good thing here. And I'm not even saying I won't support Eric July. I actually still support him, and I've bought his comics. So why the fuck am I like, I'm supporting you assholes, and yet you turn your back because I happen to interview someone you don't like. It's about as petty as it gets. You
platformed the enemy.
You know what? And that's the thing, is that these people, I understand their frustration. And honestly, there's probably two people that could likely really be mad at these guys. And I'm not gonna mention their names, it doesn't matter. But like everyone else, like you're just following marching orders. Like, think for yourself. Like, it's just dumb. Like, I don't know.
That's it. Remove yourself from the situation and think, hold on a minute, like, do I really care about it this much?
Yeah.
You know, do I really need to be angry right now? Because people are getting angry over this, man. Like,
way too angry. Like, showing up at people's like work and home. And, like, it's wild, dude.
I don't know if that guy actually. This is the other thing, Shags. There's a lot of misinformation out there, man.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and people are quick to follow it. And then if you even look into it yourself, and then you say, well, hold on a minute, that's not entirely true. You get accused of defending the guy when you're only just defending the truth.
Yeah, no, and that's, I've said the same thing. You know, it's another reason I keep trying to do what I do, is I try not to be knee jerk and reactionary with stuff, because it's a problem I'm seeing all around. Doesn't matter if it's politics, entertainment, pop culture. Everyone has these like knee jerk takes on stuff. And sure, again, I understand it's profitable and people are getting clicks.
I just like people to be held to the same standard, I guess.
Yeah.
And like you have to call out the hypocrisy when you see it. And you have people like you have people saying stuff like, oh man, well, let me just get this out firstly, right? I don't condone the stuff that Riley did. I think Riley went too far, whether it was trolling. Yeah. I don't think, personally, I don't think he was an actual danger. Like, he could have been a perceived threat, but in reality, he probably weren't. He's just probably trying to make content. Yeah.
Right.
And when you've got people like that are very popular in the space, such as like Alex Stein, he, you know, is known for going out to these political meetings and mayor meetings where he'll stand up and do bits and stuff, don't he?
Yep.
But he also went to someone's private business. He turned up at Dave Portnoy's Barstool podcast, right?
Yeah.
He turned up there with Cecil and Don Terrius, the guy that sees a comedian that looks like a homeless guy.
Right.
So they turned up there unannounced while the podcast was on, personal business. And they tried to mess with his business. They tried to barge into the podcast while it was on. And they were removed, like by security and stuff. So basically, all I'm saying is they did exactly what Riley did. They turned up at a personal business for content.
Yep.
And all Riley did was stick money on the thing, right? Which and tried to make Eric look a fool. So Eric, obviously, it made him angry, and Eric filed a police report for him turning up. Barstool Sports didn't file a police report against Alex Stein, and everyone keeps calling out this idiot Riley for fucking, doing this, saying, oh, you're a stalker, you shouldn't turn up at people's personal business. But they didn't have that same energy when it come to Alex Stein. People laughed at it. People were sharing the videos.
Right.
Saying, but like I said, though, I'm not condoning his behavior. I'm not.
No, I get you. Yeah.
But what Riley does, and the whole thing too, where he turned up at the event to cause trouble or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do anything there, man. Like, he was an asshole and he was disrespectful, and he made Gary's wife feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Did he commit any crimes? No.
Right.
He certainly didn't. He got arrested for having a previous warrant out against him for stalking and harassment that Mr. July filed himself. The police report's out there. Yeah. And like I said, I don't perceive Riley as a threat. I think he was just a dickhead, but he can be, in all honesty, you have to say that he can be perceived as a threat. There has been people out there that have done sick shit, stalker fans, and you can see why. And Eric, although he does put out the tough guy persona, he is responsible for, I do understand that he is responsible for employees at that building. So
right.
If there is some mad guy that's willing to travel across state to do whatever, like I said, he don't know what he's going to do,
Yeah.
You have to take it seriously,
I do wonder too if it's sorry to interrupt you. I think too, in the case of like Riley versus Alex Stein, I wonder if it also is contributed to the conventional looks of the person. Like Alex Stein, you can make the argument is conventionally like sort of a handsome dude. He's silly and stupid looking, acting rather. And Riley is not a conventionally good looking guy, short.
I've got to
fat,
say, I have
dude.
to say, Shags, Riley turned up in a yellow cape and a beanie hat with a Clipper Burst t-shirt on. Alex Stein turned up to Barstool Sports dressed as Alex Stein, but he was with Don Terrius, who looks like a homeless guy who was there with a plaster on his face, no top on, and his ass hanging out. And then you had Cecil with his Cecil hat on, turning up. So this, like I said, this was not your normal Alex Stein at a meeting pretending to be part of the trans community. This was like an actual. He had a beef with Barstool Sports and Dave, and he wanted to. He wanted to turn up and make some content. You know, he turned up unannounced, and that's all Riley did. But like I said, I do fully understand the reason why it had to be taken seriously, because of the potential of, you know, one of his employees getting hurt that he's responsible for. And I just think personally, it doesn't do Eric any favors in the eyes of his like detractors and the people that do just want to get a reaction out of him. Yeah, because that's what a lot of these people want. That's all they want, is their little moment on Twitter. Yeah, where they've made Eric look like a fool. Oh, I owned him, I destroyed him, I, you know, that bullshit. Oh, I bodied him with that tweet. Like, that's all they want. Yeah,
right.
And he has the tough guy mentality where they'll say, well, are you scared of this guy, Riley? No, I ain't fucking scared of that guy, Riley. It's like, oh, well, you're not scared of him. Why did you file a police report about him? Oh, well, I've got to be responsible for my employees and shit. But
well, yeah, as King said, there is, had he not, and something, maybe if he did go ape shit, then he's condemned for not taking it seriously.
I fully get that. And that's why I said, like, he has to take it seriously, that as if something could happen.
Yes.
But like I said, in the eyes of his detractors and these people that just want the moment on Twitter where they body him, it don't do him no favors when he then goes on his stream afterwards and tries to act like the tough guy about it and says, oh yeah, fuck that, yeah, I'll air him out. He's lucky, you know, he's lucky he didn't turn up at nighttime, otherwise we could have ventilated him.
Well, that's the thing, is like, what I don't understand, again, maybe it's just me being almost 40 years old. I know how to deal with these fucking people. Like, ignore them out of existence. There's no reason to give any of these people like the time of day, but like, you have like whole channels that are made, and then everyone acts like, oh, why are these people around? Because you keep them around. Like, it doesn't matter what side you're on.
You have to admire Gary Nerdrotic for that. He doesn't engage with trolls.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. Like, does not. I've seen him a couple times like retweet stuff, but he doesn't like. It's usually to like just poke fun real quick, and then he's done.
It's like when the guy that makes the puppet shows, the Ripoff Verse, who is a very talented guy, even if you might not agree with the videos he's putting out, because they are attacking, in inverted commas, your people that you're a fan of. His work's still funny. He's a fucking good comedian, and his puppets are good. You know that whole
I've
thing?
Seen those. Yes, they are. Yes.
Well, he's most known in our community for basically calling Melissa a pig. Yeah. Yep. Right.
Yeah.
He got death threats for that. Yeah, from people on our side. He got death threats. He got openly, slayed or destroyed, bodied, whatever you want to call it, on Twitter by so many people. Gary didn't say a peep. And I think that obviously he wanted Gary to have a reaction, because he's been putting out videos of Gary himself. He's made, Nerdrotic parody videos, and Gary hasn't responded a peep to it. So I think, again, these people just want that. Not these people, but... he wanted the reaction. He wanted the reaction from Gary, and he's just not giving him it. And I think that's the best way of going about it.
Yeah.
Although with Eric, at the event specifically where Riley got arrested, I think that Eric could have nipped that in the bud easily, diffused the situation, and probably made himself look good out of it, rather than getting all of the flack that he got from his detractors and from other people about how it was handled.
How do you think he does that?
I think that because that guy was outside handing out freaking ISOMs, right? I think if Eric would have just went out there and said, well, he's got ISOMs. If he would have went out there with a marker and be like, oh, hey, Riley, how you doing, bro? Oh, this is an RSVP only event. Sorry, man, we're at capacity. You can't come in. Oh, let me see one of them ISOMs there. I'll sign them for you. Now they'll be worth more money. Give it back to him. Here, do you want to pose for a picture? Hug with him. Or even go out there. He was at a chicken place, wasn't he? Go out there, bring him a bucket of chicken and say, here you go, you fat bastard. You look hungry. You know what I mean? Here's some chick. Just go out there with the same energy like that you would have on your stream, And he'd already said to the guy, you know, come down, let's have some confrontation. I don't mean go out there, confront him, go out there and belittle the guy. I think if he would have went outside and Riley's over camera, Riley would have shit himself. Riley wouldn't have known what to say. He certainly wouldn't have started, you know, giving it the big one.
Right.
If he would have went out there with his security and stuff. But if Eric would, he could have literally diffused it. Or even, you know, the other idea I had was he could have even brought him inside. You know, what's he going to do? He's not going to ruin the event. If he goes in there and starts, you know, acting like an idiot in front of 450 to 600 people that are all there for this, for just to have fun, he would have been removed from the situation and made himself look like more of an idiot than he already did.
Right. That would have been an interesting, that's an interesting way to deal with it. It takes, I'll tell you this though, it takes a lot of couth to do that without starting a real confrontation. Because I think you're right. I think maybe letting him in, but yeah, go ahead and mix in with all these people who don't care for
Riley.
You at all.
That's it. Here's a complimentary fucking Yaira t-shirt.
Yeah, you want? Here, I'll buy you a drink. You know.
Here, I take it you want triple XL because you're a tubby. You know, he could have, like, you know, played the heel character, but at the same time, you know, gave Riley his content. You know, got him inside, but also made, you know, he could have put himself across in a better light. Whereas he got criticized for trying to pretend the guy weren't outside. Oh, I didn't even know he was out there. Yeah. You don't even know who called the police. Like, and it was just, you know, more reasons to get criticism. You know, that's how I saw it. He just seems to sometimes handle the situations in a way where he ends up getting more flack for it.
Yeah.
Whereas if he would have just, I don't know, been transparent, then perhaps he wouldn't have.
Yeah, and King makes a good point here. It's sort of optically it's a lose-lose for him, like if he lets him in or not. Like either way, I think whether it's his audience or the other audience or even, you know, both of them look at it as like, you know, oh, he didn't handle that well. Oh, he let him in. Oh, he was kind of being a dick. Oh, he, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I don't think Riley's young as far as I know. And he's not, he wasn't there in good faith. And I don't think he would have.
He certainly wasn't there in good faith.
Right. And there's no telling, again, what he could have done. And I agree with you. I don't think that he would do anything awful, but, you know.
Yeah. There is nutters out there. We all know that. We all know there's crazy people out there. And just because you or me isn't stupid enough to turn up at an event in front of 500 people with cameras, streaming it with your missus and commit a crime, just because we wouldn't do that, I get it. It doesn't mean that he won't. And like, I get it that Eric should have took it seriously, but I'm sure by now that this is just my opinion, obviously. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not defending Riley and I'm not putting Eric down. I just think that the situation could have been handled better. But I can also totally see how it's a total lose-lose situation for Mr. July, because no matter what he does, he's going to get shit for it. You know, whatever decision he makes, he's going to get shit from the people that just don't like him. There is people out there that just don't like you because their parasocial chosen one don't like you. You know, there's people out there that don't like, you know, EVS just because they're into the Rippaverse, or they've been, you know, their friends introduce them to the Rippaverse and they're like, oh, well, this is the Rippaverse. These are our enemies. These are the people, you know, like, they you know, just they might not know anything about the beef, but they just know that these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and that's kind of how it is on both sides now. You know,
it's an unfortunate reality we live to.
It needs to be more about the artwork and the stories and not the beef, because there is literally 1,000 videos out there about the fucking Eric D. July EVS beef. Yeah, there ain't that many videos out there talking about the books. On both sides. Yeah, there's a lot less of those. And that's all that matters, man. These people are just supposedly trying to tell stories, you know? Well, that's what they tell us. They you know, they say it's not merch, it's not just merch in the form of comic books. We're trying to tell stories. Well, tell us stories and just stop arguing. Although, I agree. Like I said, it's fun to watch sometimes and I've been drawn in, but
oh, don't get me wrong. I enjoy a good car wreck every now and then too. I just think I've just been I've struggled over the past probably 6 months and like really like wanting to be a part of any of it, you know, like I don't, you know, there's some great artists in Comicsgate and storytellers. Eric's been super successful and I do enjoy the universe he's trying to create. I enjoy what he's trying to do on a very, like he's trying to do a very huge thing and I respect it. I don't always agree with his choices on things. I don't have to though. Jesus Christ.
No,
like,
no.
you know how many video games I play with problematic dev studios and everything? Like I don't have to just be married to these people. Like, and I wish more people would realize that and focus on their own shit. You want better comics? Make good fucking comics and tell good stories. If not, shut the fuck up. You know, I'm pretty sick of where we're at right now. And people are all talk. They're not delivering anything. Again, maybe this is me taking a shot at some of the Comicsgate people. Like, just put your fucking product out and stop talking about it. I don't care about your action figures and all that stuff. I want to see your stories. Your art looks cool. Now give me your stories. You know, and same thing on the side of like Rippaverse. I don't care how quickly a product comes out. If it's subpar, that's a problem too. Like, I don't, you know, there's things I don't like. There's things I do like. But
both of these guys are supposedly trying to create a parallel economy where it's not woke dog shit. You know, that's why EVS was cancelled for his conservative views. So, and Eric initially said, you know, the stories in Marvel were all over the place. They're making all the characters gay, so we want to make something that isn't like that. You know,
right?
Although he's an apolitical comic book company, from what I gather now, you know, he will hire people with different political views to him. He just will not put them in the comic book, so they're still like anti-woke books, but just not an anti-woke company. Is that right?
Yeah, well, he's just said I've never branded myself as anti-woke, you know, or whatever. Like, we leave politics out of it, which is fair. I mean, like, he has the Saska sisters, you know. Like,
yeah, sure.
Doesn't get much more liberal than that.
Well, for sure, they've got very
Which again, this is the thing, like me saying that, you know, again, like this kind of comes back to what we were saying earlier. I should be able to say that and not have like 1,000 people going, how fucking dare he say that? Like, it doesn't, like, it just saying something. It doesn't mean it. Like, I like what they did, you know, like Yairo was cool.
I don't really like some of the stuff they did.
And that's fine. Yeah. And I'm not saying like they're past. I'm just talking mainly about like Yaira. Like,
yeah.
So, but yeah, some of their past stuff, yeah, like, okay, I'm not really into a lot of that stuff. But if they're if they're writing good stories or it's cool art or whatever, awesome. That's all I care. When I read a fucking book or read a comic book, I'm looking for good art, or at least art I can stomach, and a story. Generally, the story is what needs to be there.
I can see why you do get they have been getting heat though. Specifically for that reason, especially when, you know, you got like the show like Rip and the Silverback. You've got Az there screaming about space lesbians and how there's too many fucking lesbians in fucking Star Wars, and there's literally 2 lesbians sitting underneath him. Like, I don't know, the self-awareness there. I don't know, or maybe it's me. Maybe I'm missing something. You know?
Right.
It just seems kind of hypocritical to me.
That's Well, no, I agree. It's and all the yelling too. Like, I just was yelling, but like, I just want people to enjoy stuff, and I wanted people to talk about things that they enjoy. Because there
seems to be just talking about stuff we don't enjoy at the moment, and they're not saying, well, look, I haven't been enjoying this. You know, this is shit, but maybe you should go over and watch this instead. You know.
Oh, hell yeah. And I think what's fun, I think someone told me the other day, Star Wars Theory had like on one of the, I think it was open, he was on Open Bar and he started talking about a show that people should go watch. And I was like, this is what these guys should be doing. Like, it's fine to talk about all the shit that's out there, but maybe make a segment on your show where then you go around the table and say, hey, you know, I watched this stuff last week and this was really good and people should start watching it. Cause these guys are huge, you know, Mahler, Drinker, and Star Wars Theory, these guys, if they were started talking about stuff that was like good, maybe a little bit more indie or even mainstream, there's a lot of good mainstream stuff out there that people overlook because it's either not well advertised. Like I'm talking about like stuff on Netflix and stuff like that. Like there are good shows on there that are original that people are just not watching because it's not advertised very well or whatever.
But you do run the risk of, you know, you've built up your whole fan base on, you know, being critical of shows, and then all of a sudden you're going to just change. You might lose your core fan base. You know, if you just changed your tune and said, "Oh, look, I'm not being negative anymore. I'm just going to talk about good stuff," I'm sure there'll be people that will go elsewhere. So I do get why you have to continue doing it if that's how you've built up your fan base, basically.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I suppose you're right, Kenzo. The voice of reason here tonight.
I do try, you know, although I do sometimes get heated and reactionary, as most people do to whatever subject. You know, you do have to, at the end of the day, remove yourself from it and think to yourself, hold on, I'm legitimately angry about something some guy said to some other guy about a comic book, and I'm walking around now in a bad mood in my actual real day. Like, you shouldn't be doing that, people. You know, do not let this bullshit argument by someone else in another country affect your day-to-day life, because it shouldn't be, man.
Exactly.
And it has been. The negativity spreads, man. It's contagious.
Genty Max says, to tell you a short, funny story, Kenzo, last one for me. I'm from Canada, right? I once told a Welsh ghost tour how Starbucks makes a London fog. 2 weeks later, Canada was on fire.
Oh, wow.
I don't understand that, but maybe maybe you do.
Starbucks, no, I don't.
Well, thank you, Jen. It seems like I would feel stupid, like I should know what she's talking about, but I don't. Well, Kenzo, this has been.
Yeah, it's 5:15 in the morning here, so there's no way I'm have the brain capacity to try and discern what you're talking about. I'm so sorry.
I thank you, dude, for coming on. This has been a lot of fun and a conversation I've been really looking forward to. And I think we have plenty more to talk about on another time. It's late for you. Maybe next time we do this, we can record earlier so you can actually get some sleep. I don't know if you're going to sleep now.
I'm watching the sun. I'm watching the sun come up as we speak, Shags.
Oh man. Well, what do you got? You got anything big coming up? Like people can do, people can see, or you just you're just like waiting in the wings and
I've been doing a few. I've still been doing a few streams here and there. Like I said, I've been doing some stuff on Commie Mark's channel on a Friday. We pretty much run concurrent with FNT.
Okay.
So we don't have the most viewers, but it's still a fun show to check out on the replay. You know, we get into a lot of different comic related and political stuff. I still stream midweek with the boys and the Full Aussie.
Nice.
I do the midweek show over there, and as you know, I've been teaching myself to animate, and people tell me that I've got quite good at it.
Dude, you got a great style. Like it's a great style of art, first of all, and then your animations are they're so
getting
funny.
there, man.
Yeah.
I've come a long way since the first like Full Aussie stuff I put out. So I have been working with our boy Cell Shade. We've been having a few brainstorming meetings to perhaps, you know, start doing some you know, pop culture parody animations, you know, like starting up a separate channel and just working on some stuff to put out, you know, just some little parody videos, joke stuff. And it's been different, you know, to just solely doing all my animation stuff on my own. You know, having someone to bounce ideas off, it's been refreshing, man. Like it's been fun. And we only recently started doing it, but straight away we've actually been reached out by someone within our community has reached out to us and asked us to do some work for them. And as it goes, I can't actually discuss it because we signed NDAs, but
oh boy.
Yeah, but watch this space. There's going to be something coming out with an intro that we have made that Cell Shades storyboarded and come up with the ideas for. That's pretty damn hot, and I can't wait
Nice.
to show you all, man. But
I
that's
can't wait
all
to
I
see
can
it.
say. That's all I can say. I can't say anything more than that.
All right. Well, I'm stoked, man. I can't wait. As for me, guys, if you are interested in more conversations like this, Monday I'll be speaking with Blaine from Criticless, which is an app that you can get on your phone or you can do online to review movies. It's a great app. I use it quite a bit for reviewing stuff that I see. I got to catch up on a couple of reviews actually. But I know a lot of people in this community use Criticless. I got to meet Blaine in Las Vegas. He's a great guy, very down to earth, just very open to communication. And like he'll talk to anyone. We talked for a while that night. And I'm excited to have him on. So that's going to be Monday at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time, same time that we usually start. And then me, myself, I'm actually learning. So I've been learning some game dev stuff. Kat, I need you to go. I've been learning some game dev stuff, and I'm actually about to finish my very first simulation that I made of the solar system. So I've been following like tutorial wise and everything, but it's like start to finish, like it's like interactive, and you can kind of like look at all the planets, and there's comets going around, and it's really, really cool. Cat, you gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool.
There's definitely the tools out there to, like, if you're in a position like I was where you had an accident at work or whatever, and you're looking for a change of direction, there's definitely the tools out there to teach yourself to do new stuff, whether it be game development, 3D animation, 2D animation, you know, like making music. Like there's the tools out there that weren't available 20 years ago, you know, that are now. Like the internet's wonderful for that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what can be done and so easy and so cheap. So like I said, I'm kind of sick of shitty games, and I want to have a skill set where I can make a game myself. And that's really kind of where I'm at. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. Don't want to just bitch. So a lot of cool stuff happening there. The other thing, a quick announcement to anyone. There's a couple people left here, but I am an affiliate with Meta PCs. So if you guys are looking for a new PC and you want one, use my code when you check out buying a PC. You do get a discount. My link is in the description if you would like to click that there. Browse some of their custom PCs that are the pre-built ones, or you can totally customize it on your own and support a local business. Everything made here and assembled in the US, shipping within 7 to 10 days. It is an amazing company. I've sat down with Zach Shutt before, who's the CEO. We've had interviews here. He's been on the Midweek Hump. Please support a great company. Support me if you'd like, and use my code when you check out. That is it. Oh, make sure you guys join the Discord too. The link for Discord is down in the description if you're not already there. Please join. We are going to be, we're trying to build a community. Oh, shit. We're trying to build the community there and talk with, I try and be there as much as I can daily if I can to talk with people in the community and interact and be a part of a cool place. But thank you again, Kenzo. You're awesome, dude. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Shags.
Yeah. And thank you, chat, for being here. If you missed part of the show, make sure you go back to the beginning, hit the like button, share it with your friends, do all the cool stuff. But until then, we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.